What's good, y'all? It's that boy, Easy Millions, and I'm your host of That Boy ETV. You already know, man. We are back on Marvel Rivals, and as you can see in the background, we're here with another character breakdown, man. And this time, it's for that boy, Moon Knight, baby. So, let's get right into this. And again, we're talking about Moon Knight. He is a duelist. He's a 3 out of 5 difficulty with a base health pool of 250 and a movement speed of 6 meters a second, man. Now, Moon Knight excels in throwing arms and bouncing projectiles off of them, which gives him a very consistent burst that lands on almost every occasion. He also has a grappling hook and a glide when he wants to. He can use his onks to pull enemies into the center, which works well with his huge AoE ultimate. It's worth mentioning that even though Moon Knight has a lot of tools to use during battle, he often becomes predictable, and enemies with attention to detail will easily kill his onks and deactivate his combos. However, this shouldn't bother you too much, because with some practice, you can still learn how to catch opponents by surprise and win every time, man. Now, Moon Knight, first thing I'm saying about Moon Knight is he's probably the first DPS that I actually picked up and played and actually really enjoyed. He is, in my opinion, more of like a backline to somewhat of a frontline DPS. Primarily, you're going to like play further back and play off his onks and things of that nature. You don't really have to be in the fight with him, which is great. So he is a really good pick in that regard, man. But let's go ahead and get right into these abilities, man. We're going to talk about his normal attack first, and that's going to be called the Crescent Dart. And with this, you unleash Crescent Darts forward that can bounce between enemies and onks, dealing damage to enemies, man. This is a triple shot that fires in a strategic trajectory. It moves at 120 meters a second. The firing interval between shots is 0.05 seconds, with an interval of 0.57 seconds between each round of shooting. The damage is 25 damage per round. The fall off begins at 30 meters, decreasing to 50% at 50 meters. The maximum bounce distance is going to be 7 meters. The maximum number of bounces will be 3. The damage fall off per bounce will be 20%. It has an ammo count of 30, and yes, there is a critical hit on this. So as you can see, when you use this, for your base 275, 250 heroes, you're only going to need about 4 of these body shots in order to kill them, which is pretty good, man. Now, if you happen to hit 1 headshot, you will only need 3 body shots after that in which to kill him. Now, with me, I think his primary attack is pretty good. The movement speed isn't that bad, and with the fact that it bounces off enemies, you can actually get off a lot of damage pretty easily, especially since most of the time, most people in this game will be grouped up. So just make sure that you are aware of that when you are using that. Now, let's get into his next ability, which we call the Triple Eclipse. And for this, you perform a combo with his Trencherin, and the third strike will launch up the enemy hit slightly. This is a melee, and it has a 3 meter maximum distance, man. And as you can see, when you use this, you will hit her with the batons, and you will knock them forward. If I'm not mistaken, it takes about 3 of these in order to actually kill somebody. Now, me personally, when using him, I rarely ever use this move. Even when someone is up close to you, I still think you should just go ahead and use your primary attack. I don't think that these are very good, but they are there for you to use in case someone runs up on you and maybe you feel more comfortable using melees opposed to his primary attack up close. So these are good, I guess, in that regard. And the little pop-up in the air is pretty good because it kind of stuns them for a little bit. But ultimately, I don't really think that you'll be using this very often, but it is in this kit. Now, we're going to get to his next ability here, which is going to be called Ancient Onk. And with this, you fire an onk to launch at enemies within its radius towards the center. This is a straight line projectile that generates a spell field upon impact. The cooldown is 12 seconds. The projectile speed is 60 meters per second. The pull-in range is 5 meters in a spherical radius. The pull-in damage will be 20%. The bouncing range is 7 meters in a spherical radius, man. Now, as you can see, when you pop this, you will throw out the onk, it will pull any enemies within this circle that you see towards the middle. And when you have them in the middle, if you hit the Ankh, any enemies caught in the middle will be hit by a primary attack after you bounce it off your Ankh. And that doesn't matter how many enemies are in there, as long as there are enemies inside the spherical radius, you will be able to hit enemies. Now, you can have 2 of these at one time, and with that, you will be able to bounce them off the Ankhs and onto each other. So you can place 2 Ankhs at one time while doing this. Now, this move right here is going to be your bread and butter as Moon Knight, as you're going to want to make sure you set these up in areas that people don't necessarily recognize them or spot them out instantly. Basically, like the way that I use them is when I run up, if I see a crowd of people, you could pretty much throw the Ankh right behind the crowd of people, or you could throw it right in the middle of them, because everyone will be more paid attention to as far as shooting around, that they won't actually take out the time to shoot your Ankh. Now, and if they don't shoot your Ankh fast enough, you will pretty much shred anybody within this spherical radius right here. And the Ankh does not actually go away until destroyed. So remember that as well, because again, good Ankh placement, you'll be out here, man. Now, let's move on to the next ability, which would be called Night Glider. And with this, you hold the button and you will glide. This is a horizontal movement speed of 8.7 meters a second with a descending speed of 1.5 meters, man. And as you can see, when you use this, you will glide. Your gliding speed is a lot faster than that of your walking speed. So you could use this in theory to kind of get around the map faster. But from what I've noticed, you will primarily use this in conjunction with his next ability, and you'll just kind of use this to just basically maneuver over the map. It is a faster movement speed than your base walking speed, so it is a way to kind of get away from folks and making yourself somewhat of a harder target to hit, man. Now, like I said, this does actually work into his next ability, which is going to be called Moonlight Hook. And with this, you launch a frontal grappling hook that pulls Moon Knight toward it. This is a dash. The grappling hook speed is going to be 120 meters a second. The grappling hook length is going to be 25 meters. And the maximum distance is going to be 21.5 meters a second. And the cooldown is 15 seconds, man. And as you can see, when you use this, you will throw out a grappling hook that will pull you towards the surface in which you grapple towards. And this is, again, just a good get out of jail free card when you're in the middle of a fight, or this will help you get to any area that's up high. And again, you can mix that in with your glide, and with the glide and the grappling hook, you can actually cover a lot of distance and help yourself move just a tad bit farther and faster than you normally would with your regular walking speed. Now, his next ability is going to be called the Rising Leap, and with this, you perform a double jump, and this has a 6-second cooldown, man. And just like it says, when you use it, you will be able to perform a double jump, and this just basically allows Moon Knight to get off his glide, get up to high places, anything of that nature. It's just a good mobility tool. So far, it seems like Moon Knight probably has the most mobility in the game as far as movement abilities go. Now, are they the best movement abilities? I guess. I don't really see too many Moon Knights gliding around. My homeboy does play him, and he actually glides around a lot more than what I've noticed, especially when it comes to getting out of quick situations. So maybe it is more useful than what I'm used to seeing, but I also don't really see too many Moon Knights outside of my homeboy really using the glide, or primarily the glide. They do use the grappling hook to get to places and the double jump to get to places mostly. So, but the double jump and the grappling hook can both be combined with his glide to give you maximum movement abilities, man. Now, we got to get into his next ability, which would be called Moonblade. And with this, you launch forward a Moonblade that can bounce between enemies and Ankhs, dealing damage to enemies. This is a projectile that fires in a straight trajectory. The projectile speed is 120 meters a second. The damage is 80. The fall off begins at 30 meters, decreasing to 50 meters at 50 meters, decreasing to 50% at 50 meters. The maximum bounce distance is 7 meters. The maximum number of bounces is going to be 3. The damage fall off per bounce is negative 20%. This does have a critical hit, and the cooldown is going to be 6 seconds, man. Now, as you can see, when you pull this, you will pull out a big moon blade, and you will launch it towards your enemy. Now, this moon blade can also be used with his onks, as if you hit the onk, it will bounce off of the onk and hit the enemy that are still within the spherical radius, man. Now, personally, the moon blade, in my opinion, you're just going to go ahead and throw this out every time you have. Just go ahead and use it and try to make sure you hit the shot, as it is a nice big chunk of damage, especially as a finish off attack. So make sure anytime this is off cooldown, you're pretty much going ahead and throwing this. And with it being off cooldown every 6 seconds, you should be able to throw this and use it very often. So it is very good, and make sure to combine this with your onk. This way you can go ahead and get as much value out of the attack as possible, man. Now, there's one last thing we got to talk about. Well, one last ability of his we got to talk about, and that's going to be his ult, and that'll be called the Hand of Khonshu. And with this, you open a portal that allows Khonshu to bombard enemies with his talons. This is the delayed spherical spell field. The duration is 3 seconds. The activation delay is 1.5 seconds. The descending range is 6 meters radius. The frequency is 4 hits per second. The number of hits is going to be 10. The range will be 4 meters in a spherical radius. The damage will be 75 damage per hit. And the energy cost will be 2,800, man. Now, as you can see, when you pop this, you will get a big circle on the floor. And when you hit it, you will release your ult, which is actually pretty good and actually a really good ult in the game. It's pretty simple to use. It does really good damage. And it gets the job done. It'll help you clear out areas. It'll help you kill people that are on the point, especially if it'll also help you kill those that are stuck in choke points. So with him, his ult is very, very simple and easy to use. That deals very good damage. It can hassle a lot of players, especially tanks. So this ult right here, really good in my opinion. Now, the last thing we do got to talk about with Moon Knight is going to be these team-up abilities, and he does have one. This one will be with Cloak and Dagger, and it's going to be called Full Moon. And with this, Cloak and Dagger can inject light and dark energy into Moon Knight to create a light and dark realm where Moon Knight can become invisible. And with this, the duration is going to be 6 seconds. The range will be 4 meters in a spherical radius. The cooldown is 30 seconds. And again, you will need Cloak and Dagger in order to do this. And as you can see, when you pop this, you will pop like what looks like her light bubble. And with this, you will become invisible to the enemy player. I mean, not the enemy player, the enemy team. So this ability here is very good when you have Cloak and Dagger. It's not one of the best abilities, team-up abilities in the game, but it is very useful for Moon Knight specifically. If you are playing, because again, like I said earlier in the video, you kind of want to play him more as a backline DPS, because with his onks, you can just, throw him from there. You don't even have to really aim him. So for a lot of times, you'll be playing further back. So with this team-up ability, if you're playing in a strategic position, you pop this ability right here, you go invisible for a time being, and then you go ahead and start attacking. They won't really know where you're coming from, which would be very, very frustrating. So it is a decent ability, but it's not one of the best in the game, man. But ultimately, Moon Knight is probably one of the easier DPSs, especially if you're just trying to go out there and get straight damage. He has great mobility for those that need that, especially when it comes to getting in and out of fights or just maneuvering around the map. With his onks, you can go ahead and cause a lot of damage and get it out fairly quickly. A good Moon Knight will be hella annoying to deal with and will keep the enemies at bay, man. So make sure you get on and try him out. As I would say, he's probably very, very beginner friendly, especially with his use of onks and the simplicity of a lot of his abilities, man. But this has been another one of them character breakdowns, and I hope y'all enjoyed that, man. But as always, please like, comment, subscribe, follow, share, become a supporter, and catch me streaming on Facebook Gaming and Twitch at DatBoyETV. Now, catch you on the next one. I'm out. Peace.